Gabriel Landeskog. Conditioning stint with the Colorado Eagles, their AHL affiliate team. They're getting him back for the playoffs. Today is April 9th, 2025. Welcome to the Checking From Behind podcast. I'm your host, Zach. Unfortunately, today there is not going to be Preston. I'm running the show myself, so sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. And as of this recording, we are 8 days away from the NHL regular season being over with and transitioning into the playoffs to see which team will be a Stanley Cup champion this year. And as of you guys recording, it's going to be a week. Nonetheless, so this season has flown by in a blink of an eye. From the Sabres and Devils starting a back-to-back series, international series in Prague, to Cale Makar scoring 30 goals and Ovi breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal-scoring record and having 40 goals in 60 games, which is ridiculous pace to do it. He ended up breaking his fibula right before Thanksgiving, was out for a month, probably 5 weeks, came back. He picked up right where he left off. So, nonetheless, let's hop right into things. So first up, Ivan Demidov is signing his ELC with the Montreal Canadiens right off the bat. This is going to be a huge, huge pickup for the Canadiens. And according to my sources, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, in the comments, he could potentially suit up for the Canadiens this upcoming Monday, which is ridiculous. Ended up getting drafted 5th overall by the Canadiens in, I believe, the 2024 NHL entry draft. And I'm pretty sure he signed like a 2 or 3, I think it was a 3-year deal over in the KHL. But turns out after the season just ended, they terminated his contract coming over to Montreal. And who knows? Montreal right now is at 87 points. The Rangers sitting at 79, most likely looking like the Canadiens had that second spot and final spot in the wild card playoff race locked up. They are, 8 points ahead. A nice little 8-point lead. Winners of 6 straight, mind you. This team, it felt like at one point maybe they were going to fizzle out because I remember they were like, they went on a ridiculous run and then they ended up actually falling below the playoff line where for probably maybe a 2 or 3 week span, it was like Columbus was in there for a while and then the Canadiens went on a heater. And Cole Caulfield has been stellar, and Nick Suzuki has been stellar. This entire team has been stellar. And mind you, Jacob Dobbs, I want to shout out him because him and Jacob Fowler's still in college right now. He has announced that he's going to return back to college. I believe he's a Boston University goaltender. It's either Boston U or Boston College, if somebody wants to let me know. That tandem is going to be ridiculous in 3, 4, 5+ seasons, man. I know Jacob Fowler has a ways to go compared to Dobbs, who Dobbs is right now the tandem with Sam Montembeault. Unfortunately, I had high hopes for Primeau, and coming into the season, I was really low on the goaltending with Montembeault and Primeau, which is what the goaltending tandem was to start the season. And everybody was like, no, like Primeau's like he's going to be like, he is the up-and-coming prospect out of the Canadian system. And frankly, I don't know too much about the Canadian system. I don't follow the Canadiens a whole ton down here in New York. But I was getting flamed. Canadiens fans were getting mad, like genuinely mad in our comments, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever it may be, Instagram. And it looks like Jacob Dobbs is the goaltender of the future of this team, as long with Jacob Fowler. And even me having decent hopes for Primeau as an NHL goaltender, being like, I think this kid's going to be good, I still got a little bit of hate of it. But whatever, though. Nonetheless, so he got sent down. Love Dobbs. Love Montembeault. Montembeault he's been okay. Dobbs has been, honestly, great. And how can you talk about the Canadiens without talking about Layton Hudson, your guys' guy, future defenseman? He's going to end up winning a Calder Trophy by a landslide. He is going to end up breaking the assist record for most by a rookie defenseman, which is absolutely absurd. Dude's put up over 60 points as a rookie defenseman. He's in the 90th percentile or even higher percentile in offense. I don't care about his defense right now. This dude's putting up record-breaking numbers offensively. This dude, call me crazy, Layton Hudson is Cale Makar 2.0. He has to develop his two-way game, though. Okay, I know he's a rookie. I know as a defenseman, it takes longer to develop compared to a forward than if you look at a guy like Macklin Celebrini or Michkov, what they're doing. By the way, they're having a great season as well. Both of them hovering around the 60-point mark as well. And even shout out to Dustin Wolf. I think all four of the candidates that I just mentioned deserve to win the Calder Trophy, but right now I do think it's Lane Hutson's to lose, which he is the betting favorite on most sports betting books. So, Canadiens, I feel like they have this entire spot locked up, and it's going to be exciting to see them in the playoffs because I know they're only 3 points behind Ottawa, but I don't see Montreal catching up to Ottawa within the next 4 games. Both teams have 78 games played. Montreal 39-30-9 compared to Ottawa 42-30-6. So you're going to get a Montreal-Washington series, and that's a very interesting but intriguing matchup on terms of on paper because both teams exceeded expectations this season. Washington, I thought, was a fringe playoff team, as most people, I believe, did. And Montreal, nobody expected them to be a playoff team. They finished off, I believe, with 78 points or so last season or something around that range, mid to high 70s. And I was looking for, okay, can they take the next step in offensive production? Can they build something, right? You had Lane Hutson coming in. It's like, what is he going to bring to the table as a rookie defenseman? And, of course, we know dude has been a superstar. But I didn't think that they were going to be an 87, 90-point team. I thought 82 to 84 points, take the next step. You're having a successful season. And then next season is be like, can you compete for a playoff spot when you have built the blue line a little bit more, when you have, Dobbs, or at the time over the season, Primeau. But, yeah, the Canadiens have been a surprise. And going over to Washington side, they're competing for the President's Trophy right now. At 107 points, they are 3 points behind Winnipeg. So right now, Winnipeg has the edge on them. Both teams have 77 games played. Washington's been kind of playing around 500 hockey the last 10 to 15 or so games. But either way, though, they ended up locking up the Metro Division last night with the Hurricanes' loss to the Buffalo Sabres. By the way, me and Preston were both at that game. Beautiful game. I don't know why the Sabres decide to start winning games when they're completely out of it, but that's besides the point. Montreal would definitely give Washington a run for their money. I'm not picking Montreal to win that series. I still think Washington will come out on top in 5 or 6 games, but I think watching Montreal's offense in the playoffs is going to be electric. And the Bell Center is going to be rocking. We haven't gotten playoff hockey with actual fans in Montreal, I feel like, in a while. Hold on. I kind of want to check that now. I know it's been, they didn't make it, hold on, let me see. Did they make it in 2018? They didn't make it in 2018. They had 96 points in the 2018-19 season. Damn. 2017-18, they're at 71 points. So 2016-2017, yeah, 2016-2017, they won the Atlantic Division at 103 points. 9 years since fans were in Bell Center for a fucking playoff game. And we're going to get it this year. Games 3 and 4, at least. Love it, Montreal. I love it, I love it, I love it. All right, let's move on to a feel-good story over in Colorado. Gabriel Landeskog. Conditioning stint with the Colorado Eagles, their AHL affiliate team. They're getting him back for the playoffs. Gabriel Landeskog will be back for the playoffs, and everybody, let's throw a party. It's been a 4-year, not a hiatus for him, because he ended up playing in that 2022 Cup run, and he played before that too. 4 years, I'm going back to like 2020, 2021. But he's been dealing with knee issues since around 2021. He ended up playing through it in the Cup finals. I believe he ended up getting a procedure for it, and he was going to miss the first half of the 2023-24 season. And it was like, the first half of the 22-23 season. And it was like, you know what? He'll be back by around Christmas, New Year-ish, maybe a little bit later. We'll see how he progresses. And he just never progressed good enough where he felt comfortable on his skates. And so it came a point where he just kept getting procedure, and nothing was working. And at that point, it was like, is this dude ever going to play another NHL game? And he's kept that. He's kept working. He's gone through the mental barriers of, not knowing what to do with himself. He's come out and said that he ended up saying something. It was early this past season, their home opener in Colorado, when they're doing like player introductions and everything. They announced Gabriel Landeskog, and Landeskog's like, he didn't know like what the reaction of the fans were going to be. Did they forget about me? This and that. And the reception obviously was more than you could have asked for. A standing ovation for their captain. And it's nice of the Avalanche. I know it's common sense, but to not have another player put on the scene until you're certain Gabriel Landeskog was never going to play hockey again until he said it. And he was determined to come back, doing it for his family, doing it for his teammates, doing it for the fans, the city of Colorado, and for the entire league. And now he's coming back. I'm excited for it. We'll see how he looks, because coming back to playoff hockey is a much different beast than just coming back in a preseason game or even just a normal regular season game in the middle of the season where you can get your legs under you. I'm sure he's not going to play a ton of minutes at first. I would expect at least the first series or so. And the good thing about Colorado and McFarland, I always give him props every time I talk about the Avalanche. The way that he's built the roster mid-season overhaul, I think he's made 8 transactions or something since they ended up bringing in Blackwood and Wedgwood as their new goaltending tandem, which has been stellar. It's been one of the best in the league. Landeskog doesn't need to give you 16, 17, 18 minutes a game right off rip. You have the winger depth. You have the center depth. You ended up bringing in depth guys, which all revolved around the Rantanen trade, right? I'm going to pull up their roster right now because I'm almost 100% certain Landeskog, he can play on their third line, even get some fourth line minutes, and be okay. So at wing, you have Natchez, you have Nichushkin, you have Lehkonen, you have Drouin, you have Miles Wood, you have Logan O'Connor, Kelly Parker, Jimmy Vesey, Joe Kiviranta. And if we go straight to left wings as their primary position, you have Valerie Nichushkin, your first line center. Arturi Lehkonen, left wing. Arturi Lehkonen, your second line left wing. And then you also have Drouin and you have Miles Wood. And both of those guys, all of those guys that are listed off can also play on the right side as well. So the depth at wing is good enough where you don't need Landeskog to give you 16, 17, 18 minutes a night. He can give you 11, 12 minutes a night and get the speed, and then let's say they get past, they're most likely going to face Dallas, unless Dallas ends up going on a run and getting the first spot in the Central Division over Winnipeg, which Dallas does not look great right now. And speaking of them, Miro Heiskanen, he's probably not going to be ready for Game 1. But either way, though, let's say Colorado plays Dallas. If Colorado gets past Dallas, Landeskog will probably end up getting his minutes ticked up in the second round. Most likely playing a team like Winnipeg, unless either St. Louis or Minnesota, whoever they match up with, ends up beating Winnipeg. And then it's just a shitstorm from there because it's chaos, all breaks loose, which I'll get to more of the playoffs a little bit in this episode. But nonetheless, though, I'm happy to see Landeskog back. He has been absolutely the lifeblood of this team for years, and the Avalanche deserve to have him back. Landeskog deserves to have another shot to go get another cup on the ice, not just in the locker room. And I'm sure he's been in the locker room, not 100% sure how that works, especially in the case of Landeskog, where he's just out long term and he's just been an LTIR forever and ever and ever. But either way, though, Landeskog, I'm happy that he is back in the lineup. All right, teams that could surprise everybody and make a playoff run. And this is what I was talking about by the playoffs, what I'm going to talk about, because since Preston's not here, I have to be a little bit creative. And I know this is probably the least creative I possibly could have gotten, but this was 10-minute turnaround. Preston let me know earlier today that he wasn't going to make it. I'm like, shit, maybe I could talk about the same stuff that we have on it, but I'd rather save it for when he's here. All right. So, teams that could surprise everybody and make it around. I'm excluding the obvious teams like the Lightning, Panthers, Leafs, Capitals, Hurricanes, Devils, yada yada yada. Actually, no, the Devils, if they made a run, I think they'd surprise everybody. But I'm gonna get rid of the cup contenders, like the top teams in the divisions and teams that, we're like, if they make it to the conference finals or cup finals, we wouldn't bet and I would be like, they deserve to be here. We expected them to be here. I'm going to start off in the Eastern Conference and work my way over to the West. Eastern Conference, I think the Ottawa Senators, if they can possibly surprise everybody and make a run. And Ottawa's a team where I'm not a huge fan of their depth, but Brady Tkachuk, we get him in the playoffs for the first time. Timmy Stützle, I love. Jake Sanderson's great. You get to see Dylan Cousins in the playoffs for the first time after getting traded from Buffalo to Ottawa. And also Linus Ullmark. That is the big X factor on why I picked Ottawa. And that's also part of the reason why this team is in a playoff spot right now and actually clinched the playoff spot. Ottawa's going to be in the playoffs for the first time since 2017 when they lost to the Penguins in the Eastern Conference Finals. And you just look at this team up and down, and if they get hot goaltending from Linus Ullmark, this team can go to the Eastern Conference Finals with ease. Okay, I don't know about ease. That may be a little bit pushing it. But this team can make a run. They can upset a team in the first round. And right now it's lining up to be them in Toronto. And this is the perfect matchup. First off, you get the Battle of Ontario, right? You get two teams that are close to each other and two teams that hate each other. And you get to rebuild this rivalry. A team in Toronto which has only won one playoff series in over 20 years. They haven't won a cup since 67. And a team with Ottawa that, frankly, is playing with house money. If they win the series, it's like, bravo, Ottawa. You just beat Ottawa. See what you can do in the second round against probably either Tampa Bay or Florida. But if they lose to Toronto, it's like, you know what? The first step, getting into the playoffs. Next year, it's like, okay, can they win a playoff round? Can they win 2 playoff rounds? Can they get into that top 3 into the Atlantic Division? Whereas on Toronto's side, it's like, you need to win this. Like, there's no excuses if you lose this. Like, you have Mitch Marner, who is on an expiring deal. Same with John Tavares. Nylander and Matthews fresh off of new extensions. So you also end up signing Woll to an extension earlier in the offseason. Actually, I think it was before the season started. It was like right before the season started. I don't know. Either way, though, you end up having Woll and Stolarz, who that tandem is the best that Matthews has ever had in the Toronto Maple Leafs uniform. So you have this pressure with rebuilding the blue line, which you did over the offseason. You end up having a guy like Matthew Knies, who, again, he is a very, very good player. He's a very good middle six, top 6 forward for the Maple Leafs. So they have pressure the Ottawa Senators don't. And the Ottawa Senators, they can score. They can score, but they also can keep the puck out of the net. 224 goals for, 220 goals against. And again, that X factor is going to be the goaltending. If they can beat Toronto like 3-2, 4-3, 2-1, they're going to be in good shape. What they can't allow Toronto to do, though, is start to gain speed in the neutral zone through the breakouts, possess the puck in the corners, and then guess what? They find guys in the middle of the ice. You have Matthews, who's going to be wide open there with the best shot in the game. He's going to be waiting. And we all saw him last year against the Boston Bruins, where at parts of that series, he took over. He won them Game 4. So you have a guy like Matthews and Marner and Nylander and Tavares, which historically you might look at it and it's like, this team isn't historically good in the playoffs, but their stats say otherwise, though. They're close to a point per game. Matthews is close to a point per game. Nylander, Marner, like, they're all there. It's just a matter of getting W's, and that's the difference, is you cannot let those guys get going if you're Ottawa. And the problem is that I don't trust Ottawa's defense enough, but if they can end up getting past a team like Ottawa, then it's going to be, in my opinion, because of Linus Ullmark. Honestly, in the Eastern Conference, I think Toronto, Tampa, Florida, no shock if they move on. Same with Washington and Carolina if they make a run. So I think there's only one team in the East. I don't think Montreal is going to make a run. I don't think New Jersey is going to make a run. I think those are both first-round exits. However, though, if they do end up winning a round or two, I'd be shocked, and I'm sure most of you guys would. The Western Conference is where things get really, really interesting. Because in the Central, Winnipeg, Dallas, and Colorado, nobody will be shocked if any of those teams end up making a run. One of them is going to make a run and come out of that Central Division bracket and make it to the conference finals. Most likely, at least, I'd hope. But matter of who. And in the Pacific Division, Vegas wouldn't be shocked. LA, you know what? I'd be shocked. I'd be surprised if LA made a run, but I think they can make a run. And goaltending, Darcy Kuemper has been honestly very underrated this season. He has helped this Kings team get to second place in the Pacific Division. They're going to have home ice advantage in the playoffs most likely against Edmonton. However, though, McDavid is back tonight. So we'll see what the Oilers do when he's back, whether they continue to win games or if they continue to lose games. We'll see. They've lost 2 straight games entering tonight as of this recording. And with LA, I've said it a couple episodes ago, maybe it was 3 episodes ago, if I'm not mistaken, where I didn't trust LA's scoring. And I posted it on TikTok, a clip of me saying, like, they don't have that goal scorer, right? Like some of these playoff teams too, like Edmonton, McDavid. Vegas, they have Jack Eichel. Colorado, they have multiple, again, but they have McKinnon. Dallas, Jason Robertson, Wyatt Johnson. Winnipeg, they have Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor. LA has Quinton Byfield, and there's no shade on Byfield. He has been much better the second half of the year. And it's just this LA team in general has been much better the second half of the year, especially offensively too. Kuzmenko has been a beauty for this team. He hasn't been quite at a point per game, but he's inching up there. And Darcy Kuemper, going back to him, he's been quietly having a phenomenal season. And Darcy Kuemper, he should get some Vezina love. I don't know if he has been getting enough. Actually, he hasn't been getting enough because Connor Hellebuyck has been putting up a historical goaltending season. But I think Darcy Kuemper should be a finalist for the Vezina Trophy. And he's going to be a reason why the LA Kings end up making a playoff run. And who knows, if they get past Edmonton in the first round, I think they do have the guys end up getting past Vegas in the second round. If Vegas ends up making a run. But the only thing, though, is that, again, LA, they'd have to win 2-1 games because I trust their defense, their offense, not so much. Going to Darcy Kuemper. Back to him for about the 25th time in about 2 minutes. His stats this season. Are you shitting me right now? He has 47 games played, 28 wins. A 2.03 goals against average and a 9.22 save percentage. Can we give more love to Darcy Kuemper right now? And I'm going to compare it to Connor Hellebuyck's stats. Because if we're being honest, maybe he steals it from Connor Hellebuyck, the Vezina Trophy. I could be wrong. Connor Hellebuyck, these stats are so identical. Connor Hellebuyck in 60 games played has 44 wins, 7 shutouts, 202 goals against, and a 924 save percentage. The numbers are practically the same, except Connor Hellebuyck has played 13 more games and has 2 more shutouts. That's it. So could you give the edge to Hellebuyck because he has so many more games played and he's doing it at the same rate? Sure, you can, but that's no slight to Darcy Kuemper. We still need to give Darcy Kuemper love for the Vezina Trophy because this dude right now is a Vezina finalist. He's a potential Vezina winner, actually. Not just a finalist, he's a winner. This isn't any pity towards either of these goaltenders. These 2 goaltenders are fighting it out right now for the Vezina. And if somebody walked through my front door over there and was like, I think Hellebuyck's the Vezina, and just walked out, I would be like, you're not wrong. Same thing with Darcy Kuemper. So, Darcy Kuemper, he's going to be the X factor again to LA making a run. And who knows, maybe Quinton Byfield ends up getting hot. Maybe Fiala or Kempe or Iafallo. They end up, no, not Iafallo, sorry. He is on the Winnipeg Jets. Excuse me. Maybe these guys in their top 6, they get going and they can put the puck in the back of the net. Because I love Q. I love Quinton. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the game. And going into last season, he was actually my breakout player, and I felt like he broke out in a big way last year. So, again, they need some guys to step up. Darcy Kuemper being one of them, if he can just continue to play. But also, if they can score, this team can end up in the Western Conference Finals. The next team, the St. Louis Blues. Oh, by the way, Edmonton, I don't think it'd be a shock with them being the defending Western Conference champions if they went on a run. So the St. Louis Blues right now sit at 43, 29-7 for 93 points. They are 9-1 in their last 10. They lost their last game against the Winnipeg Jets. However, though, I think they're like 20 and 23-2, I believe, in their last 25 games or something like that. Either way, though, Jim Montgomery has turned this team around. Unfortunately, Dylan Holloway is out with an injury, and he's week to week, and there are doubts about him being ready for the playoffs or not. But this entire team's still going to have to step up. Jordan Kyrou, Robert Thomas. Robert Thomas has been one of the best players and point producers in the league since Four Nations. He's actually first in points, goals, and assists, if I'm not mistaken. There was some stat I read earlier today or yesterday. Jordan Binnington, he has been one of the team's best players since Four Nations. We have talked about it on this pod multiple times. Something happened in Four Nations when he stole them that overtime game against the U.S. where he's like, fuck it, I'm him. He's gone on runs and has propelled this team to winning 12 straight games, which I believe was a franchise record. And also, the franchise record broke a winning streak from 2019, which they won 11 straight games and ended up winning the Cup in 7 games against Bruins. So this team is giving me 2019 vibes, just like everybody else has said. But I wouldn't be shocked if this team ended up in the Western Conference Finals. You look at a Blues team, the type around the type of teams that they're going to have to play. Winnipeg, very hard matchup, probably going to be your eventual President's Trophy winners. But we all know how President's Trophies winners fare out. So St. Louis is going to be stuck in the Central Division bracket. Let's say Dallas and Colorado play in the second round. You have to face the winner of those two teams if you get past Winnipeg. Probably Dallas, I'd say. My pick, because I've been going to the finals. You'd have to face Dallas. And St. Louis always plays Dallas tough. And then you'd have to face probably Vegas, who I think is coming out of the out of the Pacific bracket. The players on St. Louis, like I mentioned, Robert Thomas, 76 points in 67 games. Jordan Kyrou, 65 and 79. Holloway, 63 and 77. So they're getting production. But they only have 6 guys with 40-plus points. So the depth is a little bit concerning. Buchnevich is your 4th leading point scorer at 51 points. And then you have Braden Shen, 45. And then Neighbors is at 45 at 6. At 6, yeah. Binnington at a 269 goals against average, and a 902 save percentage. He's played 53 games. He's 27, 21, and 4. And I know for the other teams I've said the X factor is goaltending, which I think Binnington has to come up big for the Blues. But also I think if Robert Thomas and Kyrou get going, man, this team's unstoppable. This team truly is unstoppable. And if they can get Holloway back at some time in the first round, even coming back from injury, excuse me, that would be a huge help. That would be an extremely huge help. And this team's going to rely on Thomas and Kyrou and even Buchnevich and Braden Shen, their captain. And I want to see something from Jake Neighbors. So getting production from your top guys, including Jordan Binnington, is a must. I don't trust this team's defense a ton because I don't entirely like it on the blue line, but they can score goals. They've allowed 224 goals as a team, scored 242 as a team. I want to see the ranks of those real quick in the league. Goals for St. Louis is about middle of the pack or so, and the goals against, they have to be one of the they're middle of the pack in both. They're between that 12 to 15, 16-ish range in both. So this team, they can make a run, and I believe they can, but I don't know how long the run's going to last, to be honest with you. That's going to end it for today's episode. If you guys enjoy all of our content, all of our socials are down below as well as the subscribe button. If you guys are listening on Apple and Spotify, head over to our YouTube for more exclusive content. Subscribe there as well. We'll see you guys in our next episode.